Thank you for joining us. It's Council Preview time, and I'm Tom Loucks, Communications Director for the City of Marshfield. Steve Barg, City Administrator, sitting alongside of me here.
Yeah. How are you doing today, Tom?
Good. Well, we are social distancing. That's a good thing. And we're about 10 feet apart, close. So we don't have our middle camera. So if people are wondering, we decided to do it this way.
Well, as I told you before we started, I just had my eyes dilated at an eye exam. So, if I squint a little bit, that's why. I hope I don't.
We'll see how it goes.
All right.
All right. Well, this is for our council meeting, July 28th coming up. This is a Thursday, July 23rd, that we're sitting in the studio together. And we're going to get right into the agenda that is in front of me. Staffed updates, Steve. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, we're going to introduce a new employee. His name is Emmett Simkowski. Emmett is going to be our associate planner. You may remember Evan Munson used to be our associate planner. He left back in May. And this plays into the conversation we had the other day at Council, Tom, about code enforcement, because the associate planner, as part of their job, they do a lot of things with City Planner Bryce Hembuck and Development Services Director Josh Miller, but they also do some code enforcement in terms of home occupations and some of those types of zoning complaints that come up. So we're excited to have him. He's originally from the Fox Valley area around Appleton. And he's very excited to be here, and we're glad to have him. I've had a chance to meet him and talk with him briefly, and I think he's going to be a great addition to the city staff.
All right, well, we'll get to see him in person on Tuesday at the podium. Yeah. COVID-19 still around, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. There's ups and downs, isn't there, Tom, with this? Yeah. At the last meeting, at the end, Nick Paschal, one of our council members, asked that we have an update from the city staff on what's going on. You may recall back on at the end of May, the council voted to reopen all of our facilities effective June 1st. So the library, the zoo, all these places are open, some with restrictions. I mentioned the library. Jill Porter could tell you that there's some limitations on what you do there as patrons, because there's a lot of people, coming in, and got to make sure we're trying to promote good health and safety in the COVID-19 era. But now we've had more cases. You've probably been reporting on this, I think you have, Tom, that there have been more cases in Wood County and central Wisconsin, and questions have come up about, do we put more restrictions back on? Do we require masks of customers or city employees? Do we limit hours or access to buildings? We're not planning anything right now, but as we continue to monitor the Wood County data and the state of Wisconsin information, we want to prepare for this, and we want to let the council know what we're thinking, and maybe get some sense of what they'd be willing to do if we need to go a little bit more restrictive.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that report and see what you have to say about that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Let's talk about consent agenda. Again, those are from our committees and boards and I believe commissions too, right?
They are, yeah. And this is where a lot of the work is done. Again, I think you've mentioned this before, Tom, in various ways. The Board of Public Works, Finance, Budget, and Personnel, they're the two council subcommittees. But you have Plan Commission, you have many other committees and boards that bring ideas to us, and they get approved during the consent agenda if they're deemed to be appropriate. This is a big one, though. Board of Public Works, and people are all excited about this. One more big step, opening the bids. So, Tom, you go out for bids and you just say to yourself, please come in at estimate, right? And look what happened. The estimate for this project was $6 million construction, and if we look at the facility construction report from Joe Bozen, it came in at $5.97 million. 590. I can't talk right. $5,970,277. So just $30,000 under estimate. There's also some fees and soft costs. You may recall the council agreed to pick up soft costs in an earlier discussion. So it's really coming in about where we expected. The total $6.78 million. And we right now have $6.87 million, slightly more in revenue. We're still raising revenue, and we encourage people to continue to give to make it the nicest facility possible. There's some opportunities for us to make it even better. But right now, it appears that the board certainly recommended approval. This will be going to council. And if the council signs off on it on Tuesday night, Tom, we are moving forward.
Awesome. Does this include the demolition as well of the HEFCO pool?
Yeah, this includes everything. This includes absolutely everything. And one of the things that's hard about this, we have a construction manager, Bozen, and Joe was doing the work for us to kind of go through it. He's a great person in terms of assessing costs and looking through some of the estimates. So there's different parts of the package. It's not like one estimate for $5.9 million. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that are involved, electrical, and all these other things. So you have to go through and make sure that it all adds up. And like I said, in this case, it adds up to $30,000 less than the estimate, which is really wonderful to see.
All right. Well, That'll be presented in the consent agenda, though, but could be pulled out if wanted. Is that correct?
It could be. And, there's been discussion, I know it was brought up by one of the council members, Adam Fisher, previously, that, are we still hedging our bets? I mean, we want to make sure we do everything right before we dive into the water. But I think one of his concerns was probably, I'm not sure, but was probably the bids. What if the bids came in at $9 million? Are we still committed? Well, how can we be committed if we don't have $9 million of revenue? I think this is going to be received very well, Tom, and I expect them to most likely approve it. They may have some questions, but I think they'll look favorably on this bid.
All right. Well, there's more in the consent agenda that you highlighted earlier today before you came over.
Yeah.
Purchase of a truck for the engineering division. What kind of truck is this?
Yeah, it's well. Let me look at it. The main point I want to bring up here, but first of all, let me make sure I find it. It's going to be a Chevy Silverado, 1500, and the one we're going to go with is Wheelers of Marshfield, a good local company. The total price is $26,171, but there's some extras being added on. It's called a box organizer. That'll cost about $8,000. So the total comes in just under $35,000. The really noteworthy thing with this, Tom, if you may recall, Ken Bargander at the Board of Public Works meeting before, a couple weeks ago, had said, you know what, do we ever look at using vehicles from other departments? Like in this case, PD has some truck-type vehicles. Do we ever look at taking one of those when PD's taking it out of service and modify it so to avoid purchasing a brand new vehicle? And it's a great question. We've been looking at vehicle and equipment replacement, trying to make sure that we get the maximum use out of our equipment. And so Dan Connect worked with Chris Hawley, the street superintendent. They did a good look at it. And in this case, they recommend going with the new item, the new truck from Wheelers, the Silverado. But they made a very good point in responding to Ken and the board the other night that we're going to do this in the future, because there probably will be times when it would make more sense to take a vehicle from another department and modify it for our use to get extra life out of that item than to just go out and buy a new piece of equipment.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone does that in their own household purchases before you go buy. See what you can get out of what you currently have for maybe another year versus go out and just buy it. It's always expensive. I was just looking through some of that. That's a pretty good deal for the truck, I see.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a very good deal.
Yeah, it really is. I was like, wow, I thought those things were 50, 60 grand.
Yeah, and we'll try to make the best long-term use of what we can. We have people on staff in the street division that do, a lot of our own repair work, and they do a great job of maintenance down there.
That's right. They are able to do a lot of the work on a lot of the trucks, which helps a lot.
It does.
All right. Well, let me go through this here, make sure I'm not missing anything. All right. 2-year extension. This has a lot to do with what happened in Tuesday night's Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee meeting on July 21. Talk about that.
Yeah, Tom, I've said this before on this program, but there is no set timeline for when you have to bid out services. So, you could have the same auditor for 20 years if you wanted to without even going out for proposals from other firms, or you could bid it out every couple of years. So we try and be prudent. We want to make sure we're getting the best bang for the buck, if you will. And Clifton Larson Allen, formerly called Shank, has been with us for a while now, several years. And we talked about maybe doing a request for proposals, an RFP. But really, I think you remember that we've been through a lot in the last 2 years with the TIF adjustments that came up that we had to make, and a lot of issues between the auditor, the financial advisor, and our finance director. And so Ron and I, the finance director, are recommending staying with CLA for 2 more years. And we work with Marshfield Utilities. They've been with these folks, and we think that they're going to probably re-up with them. They'll be talking about this in August over at Utilities. But with the idea that in 2022, we will very possibly bid out the service. But the next 2 years will be really important in getting us through some other financial things we're dealing with, still even the fallout from the TIF adjustments, but some other issues that are on tap that we want to work through before we go out and look for other proposals.
All right, so we got a 2-year extension presented to the council. We'll see what goes from there. And a 1-year extension agreement on assessing services. How did that go with Groda?
Well, that's been a long ride. I think if you've been following this, maybe some of our viewers have been keeping an eye on it. It was back in May that we proposed a 2-year extension with Groda out of Menominee Falls. And at that time, the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee said, you know what, there's other options. We could go out for proposals from other contractors, or we could try and bring on a city assessor again. Joan Spencer was our city assessor for more than 3 decades here in Marshfield. So they've talked about it now for 4 meetings, and I kind of challenged them the other night, Tom. I said, you need to make a decision, because if you want to go out for proposals, or if you want to try and hire your own staff assessor, it's going to take some time, and January 1st is coming soon. Well, they talked about it for quite a while, and they definitely have an interest, Tom, in looking at having a staff assessor again in the future, like we did with Joan Spencer. They think it would be good to have somebody here 40 hours a week in the office who can meet with people, and I respect that, but we're certainly not ready to do that right now. So they said, let's sign on for only 1 year with GROTA. Not the 2 years they proposed, but just 1 year. And then in 2021, let's give a real serious look earlier in the year. In fact, probably starting still in 2020. Is it feasible for us to get our own city assessor on staff? But the proposal going forward to the council, and there may be some discussion on this, Tom, is to go with just a 1-year agreement to extend with GROTA.
Well, it is common. Cities the size of us do outsource their assessing services.
Yeah.
Our neighbor, Wisconsin Rapids, I believe, does. I'm not sure about Stevens Point.
I think Stevens Point does as well.
I know Pulver has their own, but that person's been there for quite some time as well. We do have somebody in-house, though, is that right, for assessing?
Well, we have Keith Pugh is our deputy city assessor. He's there 40 hours a week for people to meet with, but GROTA is only there, periodically. They commit to 1 day a week. They're always available for phone calls and emails, but like I said, they're from Menominee Falls, and so they're a ways away. But they've done a good job. GROTA's done a very good job for the city, and the proposal again is just to extend for 1 year while we continue to evaluate the 3 options.
Okay. But if someone wants to stop in to City Hall, they just could talk to Keith.
They could talk to Keith.
Gladly help, and he works with GROTA.
He does, and he's really grown a lot in his position. He's advanced to deputy city assessor this year, so he would likely be able to help. But if he can't, he'll point people toward contacting Jim Toth from GROTA.
All right. Well, we have another item on our consent agenda. There's quite a few on there this time that could have some discussion. We'll have to see from our council. The City Planning Commission that happened just recently. What's that about here?
Well, Tom, a lot of items like rezonings and conditional use permits go through the commission very quickly. They say any comments under a public hearing, and the mayor will say, 3 times, anyone want to talk to the commission? And they won't. And then they're approved rather quickly, because a lot of them are fairly innocuous and don't have a lot of controversy. This one involves the Taco John's north of downtown, and it's at 112 East Harrison Street. And what's happened is the current property owner had purchased the home and raised that structure, and really wants to make some changes. They want to clear the site for actually, they did clear the site, I think, for parking. They want to move the drive-through into the area that is currently the vacant lot. They want to make some other changes. And the neighbors came out and said, you know what, we're not opposed to this. We want to see Taco John's do well and grow, but our homes are nearby. What about the lights? What about the noise from the drive-through? What about the parking and traffic? Is there a good buffer for us so we don't feel like we're being encroached upon? So they had a lot of questions. Well, the owner said, that's fine, they're good questions, but I really want to get some certainty as to whether it's going to be thumbs up or thumbs down. I'd really rather prefer not to wait until the latter part of August for the next commission meeting. So the commission did what they are willing to do in some cases. They have scheduled a special meeting for Monday, July 29th to talk about this. So if the recommendation is favorable, maybe with new conditions added, it can go right to the council the next night. Now at that time, Tom, the minutes will have to be read by Josh. He'll have to read what happened, and he'll have to give an update in terms of what conditions or stipulations are being put on the permit, and really walk through it with them, because the council won't have all that information in their packet. But I do think that there's room to work. I was at that discussion the other night, and I think the neighbors brought up good concerns, but I think there may be some opportunity for things to be worked out that can allow the owner to do what he would like to do and still minimize the impact of this new proposal on those residents.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens on that. Why don't we move right down into some of these action items here, Steve?
Yeah.
There's a presentation. It's going to be by our Development Service Director, Josh Miller. Everyone Needs a Community Project. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, this will be about a 10-minute presentation by Kathy Banks. Kathy's actually on the Planning Commission, and but she is really interested. I think she has an autistic son, and really is interested in building this new development. And if you see on the second page, it's called Tree Haven. What they're looking to do is have an affordable housing committee that is supportive of independence and enjoyment for people who are maybe seniors or have some special needs of some type. And you know, the needs of those folks that she's talking about are different in some cases than a standard subdivision offers. So they're looking at ways that they can make it safe and secure and welcoming and friendly, accessible to people who fit into those categories. And I think it's a great idea. I don't know a whole lot about it. I was just reading her information from her website this morning. But I look forward to, and I presume the council will look forward to hearing what she has to say. Now keep in mind, Kathy is not making a proposal to construct one of these developments anywhere in Marshfield right now specifically. But she wants to see if the council likes this idea and if they'd be willing to look at something like this, especially if they might need some flexibility from a zoning standpoint or some other kinds of help to make it happen. But the idea is exciting. It really does reach out to people who maybe have needs for a different kind of neighborhood than the typical subdivision.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to that presentation on Tuesday. Let's talk about what Ron's got. He's got a ton of stuff on here that has to do with obligation bonds.
This is going to be the borrowing night. And we've covered a lot of ground at this point, Tom, but this is going to be the borrowing night. The first one is a state trust fund loan for $736,000. You say, well, why a state trust fund loan? Why isn't all this wrapped up into one borrowing? There are certain types of items that are not as conducive to the kind of borrowing we do in our general borrowing. And if you look at the list on this memo, you see IT software, aerial photograph, residential improvement program, business software. These are things that are typically not done through the normal capital borrowing through a bond issue. Those are usually street, repairs, major building projects, capital, more seriously capital type items. Now you know that in the CIP we now have incorporated anything that's $10,000 or more with a useful life of 5 years or more, but some of these really are not capital in the purest sense. So we use state trust fund loan. It's really good. It's really easy to apply and get it. You don't have to go through a lot of process, and it's a very good way to do business on lower, like $1 million or less. You can pay off in advance with no penalty, and that's all good. The rest of them go to the sheet that I have for you next. And we talked about this 2 weeks ago. This is a laundry list of borrowings. It includes everything from the pool to major street work, to some fire department purchases for a station alerting system and a car replacement. All sorts of projects are in here. And this will be a series of borrowing resolutions. The average person will say, why do you have to do 8 resolutions to do this? But it's broken out based upon the type of improvement. And so there are individual resolutions that have to be approved. But there's 8 in total, and we'll walk through them. Dave Ferris and/or Phil Costin from Ellers will be on the line with us. They'll be doing this as a Zoom type of thing, and they'll walk through what the issues are.
Okay, so these aren't all the CIP projects, so is that correct?
No, it's a lot of them from the 2000 CIP,
Right.
but it's not. I don't believe it's all of them. You're
Okay,
correct.
so it is some of them, but you pretty much have to borrow. You don't have this kind of cash laying around.
Right. The majority of these are borrowing type items.
Okay.
You don't get $2 million for asphalt street work and all these things. It's these are things you're going to borrow for.
So this happens almost every year, is that correct?
Yeah, we typically borrow between $3 and $4 million every year. The difference this year, you say, how do we get up to $6.9 million? Is the pool, the aquatic center. That's what takes us up into the higher number. But otherwise, it's usually $3.5 million, somewhere around there, give or take. And most of it, again, 75% is major street work.
Well, maybe this pool will last another 90 years. You and I won't have to be around.
There you go. That'd be great. Yeah, this one lasted 90 years, the first one. So
I mean, that's amazing. That tells me that our crew is taking care of it.
yeah.
Makes a big difference.
You know this, Tom, the excitement for this aquatic center in this community. People are revved up. I think I said this last time we met, I expected people to be really negative about not opening the pool this year. I think 2 things. 1, they understand COVID. But 2, they're so excited. Let's get this going. Let's get that site working. Let's make sure we're ready for June 2021. There is definitely a buzz about this project.
Well, definitely. So we'll see what the council does on this. We
Okay.
need it to move forward. Without it, you can't. So we'll see where we are. There's quite a laundry list of items on here, so I'm kind of going through here so I don't miss another piece. So anybody hears that beep, that was my cell phone. Sorry about that. Just let everybody know.
It's okay.
Sometimes that happens. What are we at here? We're in resolutions, more resolutions. Conditional use permit I see on here as well from Josh Miller. You have started that.
And that one is, you're looking at 3007, is it?
Yep.
3000, yeah. What happened was, and this is kind of a weird thing I thought I'd bring up. Last year, Jeremy Faber, and you know the name Jeremy Faber because he's the one right now who's been proposing the one on the west side off 5th and Birch area. But he got a conditional use permit to allow a residential group development at 3007 West Man Street. And so he brought it forward, and he got a CUP. Now, a CUP, conditional use permit, is good for 1 year. If you don't start the work within a year, you have it really expires. So you have to get an extension to continue it, otherwise it just goes away. And he hasn't really been able to get to the work that was intended at this point to get this project off the ground. So what he's looking for, what he wants to do is he wants to construct 4 duplexes on one parcel and combine them through the proper zoning. But since he hasn't done it, he's now saying, look, could I have some more time to do this project? And I suspect they may give him another year to get this off the ground. But I want to point this out mainly because of the process, Tom, that people say, well, you know, I heard there was a project that was approved, and I keep looking out the window and nothing's happening. There is a point, if they don't get something happening, that it could expire, that permit, and require them to either get reapproval or that they no longer are going to be able to do the work. And in this case, I think the council will probably be favorable to this. They may ask some questions. They may say, how come a year has passed and nothing's happened? But I think that they liked what was being suggested, and I think they'll still support it. But there'll have to be an extension of time to comply.
Okay, that's what that's about. So we went through the agenda pretty quick.
We did.
A lot of things have to do with the borrowing on this council.
They do, and they may bring about a lot of conversation. You know, sometimes borrowing is a big blur. You look at this and you say, oh, total of how many millions of dollars? How do I even understand this? But there are a lot of breakouts there of different types of projects, and they may review them again and say, you know, is this project really needed, or why are we doing it like this? Why are we borrowing in this fashion? And that's why you have a financial advisor like Dave Ferris from Ellers to walk through it with you. But it's an important night. It's important to get these projects the funding to make them happen and bring them to fruition.
It definitely does. Just quick on people coming. Do they need to call you, Steve, or anything yet?
Yeah, we're still doing that. I've got on the agenda, and I ask people to follow this, to either email me or to call me by noon on Tuesday, July 28th. And again, we're not trying to keep people from showing up. What we're trying to do is plan appropriately for social distancing. We may move the chairs around a little bit differently if we know a lot of people are coming. We may also prepare the conference room, the public conference room, for overflow, so people can sit there and social distance and watch the meeting live as well. And we haven't had a lot of problems with this yet. I don't know if there's anything on here that's controversial enough, Tom, to bring on a lot of people. But we're still asking if people would check in. Now, if someone shows up and hasn't called or emailed, it's not like we're going to tell them to go home, but it really does help us to get ready for the meeting.
Yep, it's just about planning. So all you need to do is call your number, right?
Yep, call my number. It's on the agenda, but I'll give it right now, 486-2003. Or send me an email. My email address is on the website. And just let me know that you're planning on coming. And we have people who do that just so that they're aware, or that we're aware of how to prepare the room.
Exactly. And that do that by noon, July 28th, the day of the council meeting.
Yep,
so
that'd be great.
That would work. So, well, thanks so much for sharing all this great information, Steve. Appreciate it very much. And again, people can tune in to the council meeting 6 o'clock various ways. Go to ci.marshfield.wi.us. You can watch it right there under our recent news. You have a Facebook page. You can watch us on Facebook. That is streaming there as well. You have cable television. 991 will have it there as well. And if you didn't get a chance to watch it live, we have it on demand that you can watch it at any time on our website at ci.marshfield.wi.us, on our YouTube channel, and soon we'll have our new website, telling people that we'll be going back to a Granicus, which is another video feed down the road.
Yeah, just a shout out again to you and David. You've really gotten us up on many platforms in a way that It's far more accessible to people than it was before. Gives them a lot of options on how to plug in and be part of the government process.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Steve. And I want to thank our viewers for watching us anytime. Give us a call if you have a question. 207-0379 is the studio number. David or myself, Tom, will answer any questions that you have. Again, thanks for watching us on our council preview.